Admiral James Stone stood tall in the center of the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, his weathered face showing no emotion as laughter echoed around him. The massive chamber, with its towering crystal walls that stretched up into darkness, housed representatives from over 300 alien species. Today, all of them were laughing at humanity. "You expect us to believe?" High Commander Reed spoke between chuckles, his blue-tinted skin creasing around his eyes, "that your species has mastered 7-dimensional travel." The Centaurian leader's voice boomed through the hall, encouraging more laughter from the gathered representatives. Stone kept his hands clasped behind his back, the same way he had stood on the bridge of his ship for 30 years. He knew what Earth had achieved. He had seen it with his own eyes. The mockery around him meant nothing. "We are not asking you to believe, High Commander," Stone replied, his voice steady and clear. "We are merely informing the Council of our achievement as required by galactic law." He gestured to the holographic display floating beside him, showing the basic schematics of Earth's breakthrough. A tentacled representative from the Hadrian Empire waved one of its appendages dismissively. "Your species barely mastered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago," it gurgled through its translator. "Now you claim to have surpassed even the Ancient One's understanding of dimensional physics." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "The path to understanding doesn't always follow the expected route," he said. "Sometimes the longest established spacefaring races can miss what a fresh perspective might see." This brought another wave of laughter, even louder than before. High Commander Reed rose from his seat, his ornate robes shimmering with embedded technology that humanity was supposed to find impressive. He walked down to Stone's level, towering over the human by nearly 2 feet. "Let me explain something to you, Admiral," Reed said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Your species is young. You're like children who have found their parents' tools and think you know how to use them." He turned to address the Council. "They look at our achievements, copy what little they can understand, and then claim to have surpassed us." The Council chamber erupted in applause. Stone noticed how the younger races clapped the loudest, eager to curry favor with the more established powers. "If I may," Stone said, raising his voice slightly, "the schematics we've provided prove." "Prove nothing," Reed interrupted. "Anyone can draw pretty pictures, Admiral. Your so-called schematics show theoretical nonsense that violates half the known laws of physics." Stone thought about the Prometheus, hidden away in Earth's deep-sea facility. He thought about Dr. Wells and her team, probably watching this transmission right now, knowing what they had achieved. The laughter didn't matter. The mockery didn't matter. Earth had done what these beings thought impossible. "The Council has heard enough," Reed announced, returning to his elevated seat. "Let the record show that Earth's claims of 7-dimensional technology have been dismissed as primitive misunderstandings of basic physics." He leaned forward, staring down at Stone. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years, your species will be ready to have a serious discussion about dimensional manipulation." Stone bowed slightly, a gesture that could be taken as respectful or mocking, depending on how one looked at it. "Thank you for your time," he said. "Earth appreciates the Council's attention to this matter." As Stone turned to leave, a young aide hurried up to High Commander Reed, whispering something urgent in his ear. Stone caught the words "unusual readings" and "dimensional disturbances" before the massive doors closed behind him. Walking down the crystalline corridor toward his ship, Stone tapped his concealed communicator. "Dr. Wells, they reacted exactly as you predicted." "Of course they did, Admiral." Anna's voice came through clearly. "Arrogance makes for predictable behavior. Prometheus is ready whenever you give the word." Stone's smile widened slightly as he heard more commotion break out behind him in the Council chamber. "Keep the project on schedule," he said. "Let them laugh. They won't be laughing much longer." 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility hidden within the Mariana Trench, Dr. Anna Wells stood before the greatest achievement in human history. The Prometheus wasn't a large ship, at least not from the outside. Its silvery hull stretched only about 100 feet in length, its smooth surface reflecting the powerful lights of the underwater hangar. "Status report," she called out, her voice carrying across the busy control room. Dozens of scientists and engineers worked at their stations, each monitoring different aspects of the revolutionary vessel. Dr. Thomas Gray, his gray hair messy as always, looked up from his dimensional calculations. "The seventh dimensional core is stable," he said, pointing to a holographic display that most humans wouldn't understand. "The aliens think it's impossible because they're trying to force their way through dimensions. We found the shortcuts." Anna smiled, remembering how they had made their breakthrough. While alien civilizations had spent thousands of years trying to bend space itself, humanity had discovered that space was already bent. They just needed to step through the right doors. "Admiral Stone's transmission is coming through," called out Captain Mark Turner from his station. The large screen at the front of the control room flickered to life, showing Stone's face. Behind him, they could see the crystalline corridors of the Galactic Council station. "They bought it completely," Stone reported, a rare smile crossing his face. "Their arrogance is so deep, they can't imagine being wrong. How's our real progress?" Anna walked closer to the screen. "The final tests are complete, Admiral. Prometheus isn't just ready, she's eager." She gestured to the ship behind her. "Every time we power up the core, we can feel her wanting to jump dimensions. She knows what she was built for." "Don't get poetic on me, Doctor," Stone said, but his eyes showed he understood. Everyone who worked with Prometheus felt it. The ship wasn't just a machine. It was humanity's key to understanding reality itself. "Sir," Turner interrupted, his face serious, "we're picking up unusual activity at the edge of the solar system. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL." Stone's expression hardened. "Looks like our friends of the Council decided to send some observers. Typical. They laugh at us in public, but still want to keep an eye on things." He paused, thinking. How long until Prometheus can launch? Anna looked at her team. Each of them nodded, ready. "We can launch in 6 hours. The real question is, will Earth's governments agree to the timeline?" "They'll have to," Stone replied. "Humanity's window of opportunity is closing. The longer we wait, the more likely someone in the Council will stumble onto what we've actually achieved." Dr. Gray stepped forward, his hands moving through complex holographic symbols. "The seventh dimension isn't just about travel," he explained, though they'd been over this many times. "It's about understanding that reality is bigger than anyone thought. The aliens think they're advanced because they can bend space. We found out that space was never what they thought it was." Anna watched as the engineering team began the launch preparations. The massive underwater doors above them started to open, sending columns of filtered sunlight down into the facility. Prometheus's hull seemed to shimmer, as if the ship was responding to the light. "One more thing," Stone added before signing off. "Our sensors picked up some unusual readings near Jupiter. Keep Prometheus's systems quiet during the launch. We don't want to give away our position." After the transmission ended, Anna walked up to the ship and placed her hand on its cool surface. The metal felt alive under her touch, humming with possibilities that most species in the galaxy couldn't even imagine. "They're all so busy looking down on us," she whispered to the ship. "They never bothered to look up and see where we were going." Captain Turner approached her, tablet in hand. "Launch preparations are starting. Should I inform the crew?" Anna nodded, stepping back from Prometheus. "Tell them to get ready. Humanity is about to change everything, whether the galaxy likes it or not." The emergency alarms woke Anna at 3 in the morning. Red lights flashed throughout the underwater facility as she rushed to the control room, still pulling on her lab coat. The scene that greeted her made her blood run cold. The main screen showed thousands of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. They weren't the small observation vessels they'd expected. This was an invasion fleet. "Status report," she demanded, taking her position at the central command station. The room buzzed with frantic activity as technicians and scientists rushed between stations. Captain Turner's face was grim as he brought up the tactical display. "It's the Centaurian Empire," he said. "Over 3,000 warships, including 5 of their planet killer vessels. They're not even trying to hide their intentions." The doors slid open as Admiral Stone strode in, his uniform slightly wrinkled from rush dressing. "They're not here to observe anymore," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "They're here to end the experiment before it begins." The main screen flickered, and High Commander Reed's face appeared. The Centaurian leader wasn't laughing now. His blue skin had darkened with anger, and his eyes blazed with contempt. "Humans of Earth," Reed's voice boomed through the speakers. "Your species' arrogance has finally exceeded our patience. Your claims of dimensional mastery mock the natural order of the galaxy. The Council has decided that humanity requires correction." Anna watched as the massive fleet began to move into formation. Even Earth's most advanced sensors struggled to track all the ships. Their weapon systems were beyond anything humanity had faced before. "You have 48 hours to surrender control of your planet to the Centaurian Empire," Reed continued. "If you refuse, we will demonstrate what real power looks like. Your children's children will tell stories about the price of human pride." The transmission cut off, leaving the control room in tense silence. Dr. Gray was the first to speak, his hand shaking as he worked with his holographic displays. "They're scared," he said softly. "They wouldn't send this many ships if they weren't terrified of what we might have actually achieved." Stone turned to Anna. "How long until Prometheus is ready?" She checked the ship's status on her screens. "The dimensional core is stable. We can launch in 3 hours, but—" She hesitated. "We've never tested the 7th dimensional systems at full power. The simulations work, but in reality, we have no choice." Stone finished for her. He turned to address the entire room. "Listen up. Every species in that fleet thinks they know what's possible. They've spent thousands of years telling themselves what can and can't be done. But humanity, we don't accept limits." The room straightened as he spoke, fear giving way to determination. "Dr. Wells, begin launch preparations. Captain Turner, select your crew. Everyone else, clear non-essential personnel from the facility. If they want to see what humanity is capable of, we'll show them." Through the massive underwater windows, Anna could see Prometheus waiting in its berth. The ship's hull seemed to ripple slightly, like heat waves off hot pavement. The 7th dimensional core was already affecting the space around it in ways their instruments could barely detect. "One more thing," Stone added, his voice deadly serious. "If this works, we change everything. If it fails," he looked each of them in the eye. "Earth burns. No pressure." A few nervous laughs broke the tension. Anna turned back to her station, fingers flying over the controls. Above them, through miles of ocean, the invasion fleet was spreading out, preparing to blockade the entire solar system. "They think they have us trapped," she muttered, watching Prometheus's power levels rise. "They think they understand what's coming." She smiled as the 7th dimensional core began to hum, a sound that shouldn't have been possible in normal space. Let them think that. For now, the massive underwater doors groaned open above Prometheus, sending cascades of water thundering through the launch chamber. Captain Turner stood on the bridge of the experimental vessel, watching his crew take their positions. Each person had been chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to accept the impossible. "All stations, report," he ordered, settling into the command chair. The bridge was surprisingly small, with only 6 crew stations arranged in a circle around him. Most of the ship's internal space was dedicated to the 7th dimensional core. "Engineering ready," came the first response. "Core is stable and humming like a dream. Navigation aligned. Weapons online. Life support optimal. Dimensional systems, as ready as they'll ever be." In the control room, Anna and Dr. Gray monitored the launch preparations, while Admiral Stone coordinated with Earth's defensive forces. The planet's population watched through their screens, many having learned about Prometheus for the first time just hours ago. Final checks complete, Anna announced, her voice carrying through both the facility and the ship's communications. Prometheus, you are cleared for launch in T-minus 5 minutes. Stone stepped forward, addressing the crew one last time. The Centaurian fleet thinks they have us cornered. Their ships are positioning themselves to begin their attack in less than an hour. Earth's conventional defenses wouldn't last 10 minutes against their weapons. He paused, looking at each screen showing the crew's faces. But they don't know what's coming. They can't know, because they think they already know everything. The launch chamber began flooding with seawater as Prometheus lifted gently from its supports. The ship's anti-gravity systems made it float like a soap bubble, despite its massive weight. 3 minutes to launch, the automated system announced. Dr. Gray's hands danced across his control panel. The seventh dimensional core is starting to affect local space-time, he reported. Just like in the simulations, but stronger, much stronger. Inside Prometheus, the crew felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was becoming less solid. The ship's internal sensors showed impossible readings as space began to fold around them in ways that shouldn't have been possible. 2 minutes to launch. Captain Turner activated the ship-wide communications. Remember your training, he said calmly. What you're about to experience will go against everything you thought you knew about reality. Don't fight it. Let your mind adapt. Through the underwater facilities windows, observers noticed something odd about Prometheus. The ship seemed to be both larger and smaller than it should be, as if it existed in multiple sizes simultaneously. Light bent around it in ways that hurt the eyes to watch. 1 minute to launch. In the control room, Anna's screens showed the Centaurian fleet moving into attack formation. They had detected the power surge from the underwater base and were repositioning to strike. But their sensors couldn't make sense of what they were seeing. 30 seconds. Dr. Wells, Admiral Stone said quietly. Are you certain about this? Anna watched the readouts from the seventh dimensional core. The numbers didn't make sense anymore. They couldn't make sense in normal space. No, she admitted. But humanity has never let uncertainty stop us before. 10 seconds. The launch chamber was fully flooded now. Prometheus floated in the center, its hull shimmering with energies that shouldn't exist in this universe. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch, Turner commanded. Prometheus didn't shoot upward like a rocket. It didn't vanish in a flash of light. Instead, the ship seemed to fold into itself, becoming impossibly small while simultaneously stretching into infinity. The water around it boiled, not from heat, but from reality itself becoming uncertain about its own rules. Then, with a sound that existed more in the mind than in the air, Prometheus vanished, not just from the launch chamber, but from normal space-time itself. The game was about to change. Humanity's greatest gamble was now in play. Captain Turner's first thought was that he could see sound. His second thought was that this was perfectly normal. Prometheus hung in a space that wasn't space, surrounded by reality that moved like ocean waves. The bridge crew sat silently, their minds struggling to process what their senses were telling them. Status report, Turner ordered, his voice creating patterns of light that rippled through the air. Everything was different here, yet somehow exactly as their training had predicted. Sir, the navigation officer spoke, her hands moving through displays that existed in more directions than should be possible. We're everywhere and nowhere, just like Dr. Wells said we'd be. Through the ship's viewing systems, they could see the normal universe like a flat painting hanging in an infinite gallery. The Centaurian fleet was there, their 3,000 ships spread out in a pattern that would have been threatening in normal space. But from here, they looked like toys arranged by a child. Seventh dimensional core is stable, engineering reported. We're existing in 7 dimensions simultaneously, just as designed. Sir, we can see the alien ships through time as well as space. Turner nodded. The Prometheus wasn't just moving through space, it was moving through layers of reality itself. He could see the alien fleet's past and future positions overlaid like ghostly images, each one as real as the present. Back in the underwater facility, Anna and Dr. Gray watched their sensors try to make sense of what Prometheus had become. Most of their instruments had simply stopped working, unable to process a ship that existed in 7 dimensions at once. "It's beautiful," Gray whispered, tears in his eyes. All these years, the aliens thought they were so advanced, but they were like blind men describing an elephant, only understanding the tiny part they could touch. On the main screen, they could see the Centaurian fleet's sensors going crazy. The mighty warships, with technology that had taken thousands of years to develop, couldn't even detect Prometheus properly. Their instruments were designed to see in 4 dimensions. They literally couldn't process what was happening. Inside Prometheus, the crew was adapting to their new reality. Training simulations had prepared them, but the real experience was far more intense. They could see the structure of space-time itself, watch as gravity bent around stars, and observe how the dimensions folded into each other like pieces of cosmic origami. Message from High Commander Reed's flagship. Communications announced. "They're demanding to know what we've done. Their sensors show." "Well, they don't know what their sensors are showing." Turner smiled. "Put me through to Admiral Stone." At the facility, Stone's face appeared on screen. "How is it, Captain?" "Sir," Turner replied, his image flickering with strange colors as the transmission crossed dimensional boundaries. "Prometheus is performing beyond expectations. We can see everything. The aliens' weapons, their shield frequencies, their engine designs. It's all laid out before us like an open book. From here, we can see how primitive their understanding really is." In the background, alarms began blaring on the Centaurian ships. Their sensors had finally detected something they could understand. Energy readings that exceeded anything they'd ever recorded. "It's time," Stone said, his voice firm. "Show them what humanity has achieved. Show them why their laughter was premature." Turner turned to his crew. "Take us in. Let's introduce ourselves properly." Prometheus moved, but it didn't move like a normal ship. Instead, reality itself seemed to bend around it. The crew watched as their vessel existed in multiple places simultaneously, splitting into quantum possibilities that all existed at once. To the Centaurian fleet, it must have looked like reality itself was breaking. Their mighty warships suddenly seemed small and insignificant against a force that could manipulate the fabric of existence itself. The time for laughter was over. The time for revelation had begun. High Commander Reed stood on his flagship's bridge, watching as his sensors displayed impossible readings. Prometheus appeared in multiple locations simultaneously, existing in states of reality that his finest scientists claimed were impossible. For the first time in his 300-year life, Reed felt fear. "Target that ship," he commanded, his voice shaking slightly. All vessels, open fire. 3,000 ships, the pride of the Centaurian Empire, unleashed their most powerful weapons. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked through space, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But Prometheus wasn't where it appeared to be. It wasn't even when it appeared to be. Captain Turner watched the incoming fire with calm interest. "Interesting," he said, observing how the weapon's fire looked from 7-dimensional space. "They're still thinking in straight lines." "Dr. Wells, are you seeing this?" In the underwater facility, Anna studied the data streaming from Prometheus. "Their weapons are moving through only 4 dimensions, she confirmed. "They don't understand that space isn't what they think it is." "Captain, show them." Turner nodded to his weapons officer. "Begin the demonstration." Prometheus didn't fire any weapons. Instead, it began to manipulate 7-dimensional space around the alien fleet. Reality itself became malleable. The crew watched as their ship created what looked like soap bubbles in space, areas where the laws of physics became more of a suggestion than a rule. The first Centaurian ship caught in one of these bubbles simply stopped. Not just stopped moving. All atomic motion within the ship ceased. Time itself had been locally paused. The crew would be fine when released, but for now, they were experiencing the ultimate timeout. Another bubble caught a group of 5 warships. Inside it, gravity reversed direction every 3 seconds. The mighty vessels tumbled like leaves in a storm, their crews helpless to resist the changing forces of nature itself. "This is impossible." Reed's voice boomed across all channels. "What are you doing to my fleet? Would you like me to explain it to you?" Turner replied calmly. "Or would you just laugh it off again?" 20 more ships found themselves in a bubble where light moved backwards, rendering their targeting systems useless. Another 30 discovered what it felt like when space decided to temporarily exist in 2 dimensions instead of 3. In the facility's control room, Admiral Stone watched with satisfaction. "Send the message," he ordered. Turner's voice reached every ship in the Centaurian fleet. "This is but a small demonstration of what 7-dimensional technology can achieve. We can manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. Your weapons are useless not because we built better defenses, but because we understand how reality actually works." The crew of Prometheus watched as panic spread through the alien fleet. Ships tried to retreat, only to find that normal faster-than-light travel didn't work properly in space that had been altered by 7-dimensional engineering. "Release the ships," Turner commanded. One by one, the reality bubbles dissolved. The affected vessels hung motionless in space, their crews trying to process what they had experienced. "High Commander Reed," Turner continued, "you came here to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, you learned one about assumptions. Your empire spent thousands of years building bigger weapons. We spent 50 years learning to understand reality itself." On his flagship's bridge, Reed had collapsed into his command chair. "How?" he whispered. "How did you achieve this?" "Because we never stopped asking questions," Turner replied. "Because when you told us something was impossible, we asked why. Because humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our refusal to accept limitations." Prometheus shifted again, now appearing to exist simultaneously at every point surrounding the alien fleet. 3,000 of the galaxy's most powerful warships were effectively trapped in a cage made of altered spacetime. "Now," Turner said, "shall we discuss the future of galactic politics? I promise we won't laugh at your suggestions." 3 months after the Prometheus incident, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The raised platforms that had once lifted the advanced species above the others were gone, replaced by a circular arrangement where all representatives sat at the same level. At the center of this new configuration stood Admiral Stone and Dr. Anna Wells, addressing the assembled species. "The sharing of 7-dimensional technology will be gradual," Stone explained to the quiet chamber. No one was laughing now. "Each species will receive training and access as they demonstrate their readiness to handle it responsibly." High Commander Reed, now serving as just one of many council advisors, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The memory of his fleet's helplessness was still fresh in everyone's minds. 3,000 warships, neutralized without a single shot fired, had changed the galaxy's balance of power forever. "We understand your fear," Anna added, her voice gentle but firm. 7-dimensional technology doesn't just change what we can do. It changes how we understand reality itself. But humanity's goal isn't dominance. It's progress. The main display showed footage from Earth, where construction had begun on humanity's second 7-dimensional vessel. Named Helios, it would be larger than Prometheus, designed specifically for exploration rather than defense. "Some of you have asked why we're willing to share this technology at all," Stone continued. "You wonder if we're foolish to give up our advantage." He smiled slightly. "But that kind of thinking, the need to stay on top, to keep others down, that's what held the galaxy back for so long." In orbit above Earth, Prometheus maintained its silent watch. The ship had become a symbol across the galaxy, not just of power, but of possibility. Young scientists from hundreds of species had applied to study at the new Dimensional Academy being built in Antarctica. "The universe is larger than we imagined," Anna explained, bringing up a complex hologram showing multiple layers of reality interacting. 7 dimensions are just the beginning. We've detected evidence of higher dimensions, waiting to be explored. But we'll need all our species working together to reach them. From his seat, Dr. Gray watched with pride. The theoretical physicist had become something of a celebrity among alien scientists, his simple explanations of complex dimensional physics being studied across the galaxy. His latest paper, Why Everything You Know About Space-Time Is Wrong, and that's exciting, had been translated into 47 alien languages. Earth extends an open invitation, Stone announced. Any species willing to set aside old prejudices and work together is welcome to join the new Dimensional Exploration Initiative. We've prepared teaching facilities, research laboratories, and joint mission programs. The chamber, once filled with mockery of humanity's claims, now buzzed with excited discussion. Representatives from traditionally opposed species were already forming research partnerships, their previous conflicts forgotten in the face of such tremendous possibilities. Captain Turner, watching from Prometheus's bridge, sent a private message to the facility under the Pacific. The aliens seem almost as excited as we were when we first discovered it, he wrote. Remember how we felt when we realized what we'd found? Anna smiled at the message. She did remember. She remembered the moment they discovered that reality wasn't rigid. It was more like a book with pages that could be turned if you just knew how to reach between them. The galaxy is entering a new age, Stone concluded. Not an age of human dominance, but an age of universal discovery. The laughter has stopped, replaced by something far more valuable, wonder. As if to emphasize his point, Prometheus performed a demonstration above Earth. The massive ship shifted through dimensions, creating a display of interconnected realities that lit up the planet's sky. Billions of humans and aliens watched together as reality itself danced, celebrating the dawn of a new era. The age of limitation was over. The age of exploration had begun.